You've been working for an hour, you hit save. Instantly, the little dot disappears, the title stops saying unsaved, and the app tells you all changes saved. Done. Done in the blink of an eye. But here's the strange part. Of everything inside your computer, the place your file has to end up, the disk, is by far the slowest. Thousands of times slower than the memory your program runs in. So how did the slowest thing you own finish the job before you even lifted your finger? It didn't. When your computer says saved, most of the time, your file isn't on the disk at all. Start with where your document actually is. While you're editing, your file isn't really a file yet. It's just a pile of bytes living in your computer's memory, RAM, the fast workspace where every running program keeps the things it's touching right now. But RAM has one catch. It forgets. Cut the power, and everything in it vanishes instantly. It only remembers while the electricity is flowing. Your disk is the opposite. Slow to reach, but it holds on, with the power off, for years. So saving is really one specific thing. Taking your work out of the fast world that forgets and copying it down into the slow world that remembers. But your app can't just reach out and write to the disk itself. No program can. Talking to physical hardware is the operating system's job, and it's alone. That's the referee we met in the last video. The one gatekeeper every program has to go through. So when you hit save, your app doesn't touch the disk, it makes a request. It hands the operating system a bundle of bytes and says, please write this to this file. One call across the line from your program into the OS, and then it waits for the answer. Here's where the magic and the lie happens. You'd expect the OS to now carry your bytes all the way out to the disk. It doesn't. Instead, it copies them into a staging area inside its own memory, still RAM, called the page cache. And the moment your bytes are sitting safely in the staging area, the OS turns around and tells your app, done, saved. That's the answer your app was waiting for. That's why the dot vanishes the instant you press the keys. But look at what's actually true. Your data is still in memory. The disk hasn't moved. The OS has simply marked those bytes dirty, meaning changed, and not yet written out. Saved was a promise, not a fact. Why would the OS lie to you like that? Because it's the smart thing to do. The disk is slow, and writing to it every time anything changes, every keystroke, every tiny edit, it would grind your whole computer to a crawl. So instead, the OS waits. It lets the dirty bytes pile up in memory, and a second or two later, it writes them all out to the disk together in one efficient trip. It's the same move you've seen before in this channel. Keep it close and do the slow part later, in bulk. And it works, almost always. But look at that gap it leaves. A second or two where your file proudly says, saved, while it really lives only in memory. Yank the power cord in that window, and the work you saved is simply gone, because it was never really saved. For most things, that tiny risk is fine. But some programs can't gamble. When your bank moves money or a database records an order, probably on the disk is not good enough. A crash at the wrong moment cannot be allowed to erase it. So those programs use a second, stronger command. After writing, they call a flush. The real name is fsync, and it means something very specific. Do not answer me until these bytes are physically, permanently on the disk. The program stops and waits for the real thing. No staging area, no promises. That guarantee is expensive. It is exactly the slow disk trip everyone else was trying to avoid, which is why your computer doesn't do it for every little save. It saves the guarantee for the moments that truly can't be lost. There's one last danger. What if the power dies in the very middle of writing, halfway through replacing your file? You'd be left with something worse than the old version or the new one. A mangled file that's half of each, and no way to tell which half is which. File systems refuse to let that happen, using a trick called journaling. Before touching your real file, the file system first writes down its intent, a short note that says, "I'm about to make exactly these changes." Only once that note is safely on disk does it actually try to make them. If the power fails partway through, the system wakes back up, reads the note, and either finishes the job or throws it away cleanly. So a save is all or nothing. You get the whole new file or the whole old one, never a broken blend of the two. So saved was never one thing. It's a chain of promises. Your app hands its bytes to the operating system. The operating system parks them in memory and says, "Done," instantly, and not quite truthfully. A second or two later, it writes them out to the disk in a batch to keep your machine fast. And only a deliberate flush, backed by the file system's journal, turns saved into something that will actually survive the plug being pulled. That little dot disappearing isn't the finish line. It's actually the starting gun. The real saving happens in the seconds after, quietly, out of sight, in a world your program has learned to trust without ever having to watch it.